My name is Ethan Park, and what I'm about to share isn't some recycled urban legend. It happened to me, and I'm no fan of horror. But over the years, too many people around me have confirmed similar experiences, and it's become impossible to pretend it was just my imagination. Back when I was 16, I transferred to a rural boarding high school in Oregon. The campus used to be part of an old state-run mental hospital that was shut down in the late 70s. They had repurposed the land, renovated the buildings, and slapped a new name on it, Pine Creek Academy. Despite its modern name, the school felt like it belonged to another era. Thick pine woods surrounded it, the fog never seemed to leave, and the red brick buildings groaned under decades of history. I didn't like the idea of staying on campus. I'd grown up in Portland, used to the bustle, the noise. Here, the silence was deafening. During our first week, a few of us dorm mates, my roommate Jake, a quiet kid named Ray, and I decided to explore the campus on a Sunday afternoon. The air was cold and damp from a soft drizzle, and the forest bordering the football field was half covered in mist. We wanted to map out the shortcuts between buildings before classes got serious. I remember that afternoon vividly. I'd forgotten a history worksheet back in the classroom and convinced Jake to come with me to retrieve it. On the way back, we took a detour through a path behind the gymnasium, one we hadn't noticed before. It led to a fenced-off section of the old property supposedly condemned. But what caught our attention wasn't the path or the fencing, it was the figure standing dead center in the old tennis courts. A girl. She was wearing a red raincoat. Not bright crimson, but faded, almost burgundy. Her back was turned to us, the coat hood up, motionless. We stopped walking. Jake whispered, "Do you see that?" I nodded. "What is she doing out there?" "No idea. But it's freezing and she's not moving." We started toward her slowly, calling out, but she didn't respond. I pulled out my phone to record, more out of curiosity than fear. But the screen stayed black. Dead battery or something stranger. Then she turned. There was no face under the hood. Just blackness. Empty. Not even a hint of light or skin or shadow. Jake cursed loudly, grabbed my arm, and we bolted toward the gate behind us. When we looked back, she was gone. Completely vanished. We told a few classmates that night, but they all laughed it off. The next day, one of the seniors heard us talking and quietly said, "There's no old tennis court on this campus. That area was leveled years ago. You guys must have wandered off-site." Jake and I didn't believe him. After school, we snuck back to where we thought we saw the red raincoat. But there was no path. Just solid pine trees and a moss-covered utility shed. We weren't crazy. We knew what we saw. And we hadn't even reached the worst of it yet. After that first encounter with the girl in the red raincoat, Jake and I made a pact to stop talking about it. We figured the best way to get through Pine Creek Academy was to focus on graduating, not ghosts. But what happened in our dorm building made forgetting impossible. The boys' dormitory was a 4-story brick structure named Balsam Hall, though we all called it Basement Hell because of how bad the plumbing was. The school had the audacity to hang a steel sign above the entry that said "Home Away from Home." It should have said "Abandon all hope." We were placed in room 204, toward the back of the second floor. The farther back your room was, the closer you were to the shared bathroom, which reeked. The stench was constant, sour, rotting like something decomposing behind the walls. The janitor swore it was just the pipes, but we all knew better. Even worse were the nights. Students in rooms 201 through 205 started complaining that someone or something was knocking on their doors in the dead of night. Always between 3 and 4 a.m. Always 3 knocks. The first time it happened to Jake and me, we thought someone was pulling a prank. We even laughed when we heard it, until Jake flung open the door and no one was there. The hallway was completely empty. Not even the sound of footsteps fading. Just silence. But the knocking continued every other night. Eventually, 2 guys across the hall tried to wait it out, sitting by their door with baseball bats. The moment the knocks came, they jumped out, flung open the door, and saw nothing. But the knock immediately echoed again from the next room down. Whatever it was, it moved. Then one night, things escalated. I'd sprained my ankle during gym class and couldn't climb up to my bunk, so Jake let me take the lower bed. That night, I woke up around 4 a.m. with the worst thirst I'd ever had. I leaned over to grab the half-empty Gatorade on the floor. And that's when I noticed him. There was someone sitting at the edge of my bed. His back was toward me, hunched, head nearly brushing the underside of the upper bunk. He was tall, abnormally tall. And he was wearing a red hoodie just like the Raincoat girl. Not the same coat, but the same faded color, the same wrongness. Thinking it was Jake playing a joke, I muttered, "Dude, not funny." But the figure trembled. Not with laughter, but like he was short-circuiting. Twitching. Slowly he stood. His head nearly hit the ceiling, and I mean the actual ceiling of the room, not just the bunk. I couldn't see his face, but I felt his gaze. Cold crawling under my skin. I yelped, stumbling backward into Jake's desk chair, knocking over a lamp. Jake bolted upright, asking what was going on. But by then, the figure was gone. We searched the entire dorm room, locked from the inside, window bolted shut. No one else saw him. But I had. And I knew I wasn't the first or the last. After that night, I couldn't sleep properly. Every creak of the bed frame, every gust of wind, felt like that figure was back watching. The school nurse thought I was having anxiety. A doctor later diagnosed me with hypoglycemia, saying my early morning wake-ups were my body's way of demanding sugar. But low blood sugar doesn't explain a faceless boy sitting on your bed. A week later, it happened again. I woke before dawn, my mouth dry as sandpaper. As I reached for the Gatorade bottle, my eyes drifted toward the door. Someone was standing there, face nearly pressed against the glass. Not a student. The skin was pale, almost bluish, and the eyes were wrong. Not empty. Worse. The eyes had no irises. Just cloudy white, like boiled eggs. And they were staring directly at me. I froze. The lock on the door hadn't moved. But the figure was inside the hallway. And now he was smiling. A wide, bloody grin that stretched beyond normal anatomy. His teeth looked broken, rotten red. I screamed. Jake leapt out of bed. Lights flipped on. Other students poured into the hallway. But there was nothing outside the door. Not even a footprint on the dust-covered floor. Only my shaky breath and the pounding of my heart. I left Pine Creek a week later. My parents thought I was homesick. I let them believe that. It was easier than explaining that ghosts of forgotten patients still wandered the dorm halls. That what I saw wasn't just hallucination, it had roots in history. Years later, I ran into Mr. Harris, my old science teacher. Over coffee, he told me the truth. Pine Creek Academy was built on the bones of Bellevue Asylum, a state psychiatric hospital shut down after a fire in the 70s. Dozens died, many unaccounted for. And the dorm I stayed in? It was once the hospital morgue. The red coats and hoodies? Issued uniforms. What I saw wasn't fiction. It was memory playing on repeat. I returned one last time in my 20s. But the school was gone. Torn down. Replaced with a shopping center and parking lot. And yet, whenever it rains, I still smell that earthy metallic scent. And sometimes I swear I see a flash of red in the fog.